Listen, you know what time it is. It's time for another episode of your favorite new podcast entitled We Hate You, Internet! All right, gather around once again. We are back in the place where creativity is assembled. It's the content creation factory here in Houston, Texas, and this is We Hate You Internet. It is a podcast designed to bring awareness of the problematic effects of the internet on our lives, as well as celebrate the beautiful simplicity of our humanity. Yeah, I'm Wilfred Hamilton. I'm your host, sitting on my far right, because I know you saw another individual sitting in the middle, and we're going to get to that in just a moment. You know what I'm saying? On my far right, she's business casual today, you know what I'm saying? You may not be able to see the feet, but she got heels on, you know what I'm saying? I can tell she put a little oil on her feet. Unlike me, unfortunately. I walked in, I guess I shouldn't out myself. Anyway, she has the glasses because we're planning on having an intellectual conversation, you know what I'm saying? And all of that jazz. Her name is
Clara Aguirre. I'm very excited for today. I do have, it's a big day, so, I had to dress for it, but I'm excited.
Clara Aguirre is in the building. Now, it's three chairs, three people sitting here. You see this. You see what I'm saying? Here in the middle, okay? We have a very, very special guest. It's really important that you understand the gravity of the individual who's sitting here with us today, okay? You know what I'm saying? The sugary hair, yeah, she's sweet, but it's substance behind all of that stuff too. Don't get it twisted. You know? For the last 25 years or so, you know what I'm saying? Until very recently, she was the operations manager for WHY.I. And if you don't know what that is, they were people who are responsible for those in Houston, you know what time it is, 97.9 The Box. You got Majic 102. A few other stations. 92 point...
Yes, Praise 92.1, although they recently sold that, but the Praise brand, I was overseeing that. And in the time, multiple brands under the 92.1. So, that's kind of was our all-around kind of test market format, but locked and loaded on the inspiration, which is where it should be. So,
see? Along with that, you know what I'm saying, you also sit on the board with St. Jude.
Yes, I am on the Urban Cares Advisory Council. Proud to say I'm an inaugural member, which means I've been there since day one. Yeah,
inaugural means she's from the beginning.
Yeah, from the beginning. And so that brings me a lot of joy and purpose. St. Jude, just a wonderful research hospital based in Memphis, but it's not just about Memphis. It's about curing cancer and for kids all over the world. And so just honored to be a part of that team and, a part of helping to make the magic happen at St. Jude. It's just a special place. No patient family ever sees a bill for the treatment, for the travel, for all the things. And so I work very closely with them so we can spread the mission of St. Jude and also find ways to raise money so that those parents never see that bill.
Yeah. Beautiful.
See, she has a caring heart. On top of that, to add to that beautiful heart of hers, she's also the author of not one but two children's books.
Yes, that was an itch I had to scratch.
She cares about the babies.
I love kids, and reading was paramount. Reading was so instrumental for me as a child. I think it's the absolute best way. There's nothing that beats it. Reading is the best way to exercise your imagination. Yeah. And so, for me, reading is just so powerful. My favorite author is Dr. Seuss. So I was inspired to write two children's books. One was called The New Kid, which is a cool story about a kid who's new in town and just feeling insecure about himself, and he sort of buys friendship, right? And we've seen that play out with our kids in real life. So it's a beautiful story all the way around about, understanding that what you bring to the table has value without you having to pay for it. Mm-hmm. And then about the other kids in the neighborhood and, to be accepting or to seek a deeper relationship rather than just what someone can do for you. So love that story. And then, my heartbeat is J Mac is the freestyle king, inspired by my very good friend J Mac from 97.9 The Box. Mm-hmm. And, just Mac, he's got a larger than life personality. And I said, I said to him one day, I said, look, I have a crazy idea. I just want you to hear me out. I have an idea to write a children's book about you and your life and inspired by. And, if you know Mac, we have a wonderful relationship and he trusted me. And so he's like, go ahead, let me see what you got. So I wrote the story. I wrote it in rhyme because he's also known as the Freestyle King. And got the illustrations and published it. And it was truly a passion project with that book. And I was so proud to, I didn't expect to get rich or do any of the things. It was really a passion. It was an itch I wanted to scratch. And I just wanted to get that great story out, for him, about him, thinking that it could be a cool story to inspire people as well.
So after hearing all that, you may have thought to yourself, but well, what is her name? You know what I'm saying? We didn't even say her name yet. So for those who are curious, her name is?
Terri Thomas.
Terri Thomas is in the building.
I am here, and I'm so grateful to be invited to be here with you both today.
Of course.
It's just always an honor, to get an invitation like this. I never take that for granted. I've usually behind the scenes in my radio career, and sort of crafted a bit of a personal brand through the internet, and I know we'll talk about that a little bit, but, it's always an honor for me to get an invitation like this. And I just really commend you both for wanting to make your imprint out here in the world and to, bring your beauty and bring your good to people. I think that's great.
Thank you.
And that's the show for today, okay?
Okay, mic drop. Except this mic cost a lot of money, so you won't drop that.
A decent penny.
Your partner back there might get a look of panic on his face.
Yes, indeed. That's Ugo for those who are questioning. But anyway.
That's right. Hey, Ugo.
Drop the man's name. But no, we like to go through the bio first, and then we start kind of getting into the personals.
Okay.
Just as far as, because, here on WHY Internet, we don't just invite anybody on the show. It's, I mean.
I notice.
Yeah, you got to have a little bit of, a little, what's the word I'm looking for?
Something.
There it is. You know what I'm saying? You have to be able to bring some value.
Yes.
To the platform and to our listeners. We don't, that's one thing we start off from the beginning, really, really mindful about the quality in everything that we do.
I can tell.
Well, we try our best, you know what I'm saying? But, and so, I remember finding you a couple of years ago, back when I was dabbling with music. The people know.
Truth.
I sing a lot. I carry a tune.
Okay, I like it.
And I remember you were doing your #free game.
Yes.
And you were just kind of basically giving jewels and gems about navigating the music industry as an independent artist, things of that nature. It was very good. I thought it was very insightful. I immediately hit follow. You know what I mean? And I ended up sending you a DM with a link to one of my songs. I'm like, man, it's just, if you get a chance, I know you're busy. Just if you get a chance, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. And you hit me back. And at that point, I knew, I said, she's a really caring and genuine person. Because, who has time to do that? You know what I mean? And you have so many other things you could be doing, and to actually take the time to do it and actually hit back and be like, hey, I listened to it, I thought it was good, and you gave your commentary on what I had to do. I thought that you're a really nice person. From that moment forward, I really had a good feel for the quality of person that you were.
Thank you. I'm grateful for that.
Taking it a step further, right?
Okay.
And we started to go through this process, and I thought to myself, and as we started to introduce the idea and the topic of this, what we did all this talking. Today we're going to be talking about going from SuperFan to major brand with Terri Thomas.
I love the title. Like, high five on the title. I was like, boy, I like that. I mean, as a marketing mind, I respect it.
Hey, listen, man.
I respect it.
I think a little bit too sometimes.
I see it. See, you do more than just sing. There you go.
Can't do that. Didn't work out, so I had to find something. No. But in our interaction, while we're putting this all together and kind of going back and forth, I saw your sincerity, and I saw your spirit, and then I knew, I was like, we got the right one for this. Not only do you bring the knowledge and the substance, you know what I mean, but you bring the proper spirit.
Thank you.
So once again, we just want to tell you thank you for joining us in this endeavor. And so we don't waste too much time. We've been talking all this time. Yes, you got cats' emotional eyes in the water. We're gonna jump in. So for today, we're talking about with all that we do on this show. One of the things we always try to focus on is dispelling the truth from illusion. And when we talk about the internet, we don't actually hate the internet. You know what I'm saying? It's we just want to make sure that people, like you said, people are aware of the aspects of it that can really take you away from reality. And ultimately, when you start to go away from reality, that's when you start having a lot of mental health issues and suicide. Like you start going down a really ugly path once you start disconnecting from reality. And we think that the internet, as great as it is, if you're not careful, can really, exacerbate those issues in the individual's life.
If you don't recognize the power, you will absolutely feel the pain.
Man, how can ease the pain? You know what I'm saying? That's what it made me think of.
See, that's a new hook for the show. Like, just make a statement, and then there's
come
a song.
on. Yo,
So,
hey, we can do that.
yes, the internet is powerful. I mean, it is powerful, and if you do not recognize and respect the power, you will absolutely feel the pain. So let's do an analogy, right? Let's say we're in the ocean, and maybe there's a powerful storm in the ocean, and so the waves are building, right? A lot of times you see that, and they got the red flag out on the beach, but you're, oh no, I got that. I can go out here in the ocean and the waves are crazy, but they got the red flag up, which says, no, that ocean is a lot more powerful than you think it is. But you're stubborn, so you go in the ocean anyway and you almost drown. Why? Because you do not respect the power. And so if you do not respect and understand the power of the internet and really hold it where it needs to be with a complete understanding, then you can absolutely feel the pain, because it will rob you of your soul if you allow it to do so. You have got to respect the power.
Yeah.
Straight up. And so we want to talk about dispelling the illusion of brand building, because everybody's on the internet. Everybody got a phone in their hand, and they have access to the internet, and so they can create content and then post all day long. And people think that if I just show this talent, show this thing, whatever that I do, and post it, then it'll go viral, and then I'll become famous. And it's just like, things do not work that way. That's the perception, but the reality is that it's a lot of work and a lot of years that come behind a lot of these people that you're watching. And so what made me kind of come up with the concept is that everybody starts as a fan of something before they go into it professionally. It's something that caught your eye, that you found that you admired, and it became a passion of yours. And then you decide to pursue it, and so you go from that you make that transition from spectator or just a fan of something to actually going into the actual brand building and the professionalism of it.
Spectator to creator.
I like that as much better than what I was doing.
That's the alley-oop, really. Spectator to creator. That's where you're going. I will say this. Everyone is a brand. We have to, and I know it was like, well, everybody's a brand. You really are a brand. Doesn't matter if you're good at it or not, but everyone is a brand. I think we need to understand it. We need to embrace it, right? Well, like Clara today, she came in here with a certain vibe. That's her brand. She's representing her brand today. Indeed.
What is a brand? See, people use that word often, and sometimes you may not even be aware of what that word means. And I'm gonna come your way, lady, because you ain't said nothing all this whole time.
Oh, no, it's okay. I'm listening. I'm taking all this knowledge. I'm taking all this knowledge.
It's not okay.
The word is overused and misunderstood.
Indeed.
Okay. Now I have to establish the baseline where everyone is a brand.
Okay.
What a brand is an identity. It's an identity. And so when it comes to me, if I'm trying to help someone cultivate their personal brand, for example, what I'm seeking is the thing about you that's unique and different. And so we go through exercises to determine these things. Who are you? What do you do? And why does it matter? So what do you do could be, what do you represent? I think that could be a little bit interchangeable. But who are you? What do you do? Why does it matter? So let me use an example. So the past 19 years of 97.9 The Box, right? So we established a brand identity for The Box. And it's, who are you? Well, you're 97.9 The Box, the real sound of H-Town. You could tag that out, right? And then what do? We serve the community. Now, there's sub-points to that, right? Bullet points. It could be entertainment, information, connection, whatever it is that your sub-points are. But the headline is that we serve the community. Why? The why, and I will take 100% credit for it, because they depend on us.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if you're both Houston natives, but you've been here long enough to understand the impact of a 97.9 The Box or a Majic 102, especially in the urban community. And so my thought when I came up with that, and it really fits for both of those brands, is that if we go back through history and erase 97.9 The Box and Majic 102.1, the culture of the city doesn't look the same.
Correct.
Because the stations, those brands, and the people that were extension of the brands did such a phenomenal job of, integrating into the culture, reflecting the culture, have the opportunity to move the culture, built that connection with the people here in the city so deeply that we became a part of the city and a part of the culture. And if you take and erase that, the culture of the city, it just looks different. And so, that really speaks to what a strong brand can do. It can create an impact that can actually alter things, for the good, we hope, definitely. But who are you? What do you do? And why does it matter? So that's the cornerstone of brand.
I love it. Anything you want to add while we there?
No, I'm just listening right now. But if I have anything I want to add. Yeah.
Okay. Now, so we talked about going from fan to brand, right? What do you think is the first step that an individual has to do in order to make that transition?
Well, I think, commitment. You have to commit to your idea and be willing to fail forward. Okay. So fear keeps us in a particular space oftentimes. And the internet is very, you're putting yourself out there for a lot of criticism. You're opening yourself up because the internet has shown us that it's the bully on the schoolyard on multiple levels. Okay.
Indeed.
So when my little sister was in elementary school, I remember this, and some boy was messing with her, ripped her coat, and I went after his little butt. Because you're not going to mess with my sister, right? So with the bully on the schoolyard, it took a certain amount of chutzpah to get in here and bully you in real time. Now, he never did that after Big Sister came for him. That wasn't happening. But it does take a certain amount of courage to do that in person, right? What the internet does is it puts a mask on, right? So I can sit here and I can thumb thug from my phone.
I love it.
And I can tear you down on every possible level, and there's no consequence for me.
You can't touch me.
You can't touch me. My persona might be fake. My name is whatever, some name I made up. My picture, you don't know where I am. You don't know where I live.
Or if it's even me.
Yeah, you can create this incredible false identity, and it allows you the freedom to tear things down. And so, for the internet, you just have to be mindful of that. It brings the bully, it just amplifies, the bully on the schoolyard. And now it's open access to everyone to be able to be the bully. So you have to have a thick skin, and you have to understand that you're going to fail forward. Everything isn't going to be perfect, but there takes a certain amount of bravery to push through. And we always tell the kids, right? It's okay to be scared. Being brave is not about not being scared. Being brave is pushing through anyway. So I would say for someone trying to develop a personal a brand, go from SuperFan to brand, is that you have to kind of put on your backpack of bravery because it won't always be easy. Things aren't going to look the way you think they should look, or you're learning on the job, so it's not going to be as perfect or polished. And people may offer some negative criticism who may not know anything about you, really understand your mission. They're just here to be naysayers, and you have to acquire some toughness to push through that.
Yeah.
So those are a couple of keys for sure.
The last time that we spoke on the phone, you mentioned Fail Forward, the book, and I have it in my Amazon cart because I really want to read it. That's something that I always had a hard time with when I was younger, is the fact that people will have everything to say about seeing you try. Not even try and fail, but just trying in itself. Some people find that cringe, is what they say.
Oh, Lord.
And I just think that's absolutely ridiculous. I think that's something that if you want to go for anything, not just necessarily establishing your brand, but anything that you do, you can't be afraid to be seen trying. You gotta try. You gotta go for it.
Well, here's the thing. It's the transparency of trying that helps to build your community.
Because
the transparency
be there with you
of trying. Because I will say this, it is so human to champion the underdog. And if you can find some basis of connection with people and they see you trying and they feel that connection with you, they're going to cheer you on through the trying.
They want to hold your hand through the growth process.
They do, and I always say there's billions of people in the world, right? You don't need billions of people to rock with you. It's really about putting your arms around what's going to be your community. And so there is a level of transparency, when you're on there. And we always hear this word authentic. I feel sometimes it's a bit overused because it's a real buzzword, but I can't deny the truth of authenticity. It's being willing to be exactly who you are with all of your perfectly imperfect imperfections and being able to pursue that. So, I named my company Renegades, Rebels, and Rogues for our purpose with my husband, Tim. And that was the desire, shout out Tim, the desire to find the people that had really something unique to offer, but were afraid to give themselves permission to opt in to their own uniqueness. So this all comes, and I'm going to get spiritual for a second. So God puts in each one of us a purpose, right? There's a mission that we're all supposed to accomplish. So with that download, he's also giving us some unique talents and abilities that are meant just for you. And other people may view them as a little left of center. But if you could really tap into the uniqueness of what God gave you, that and follow that, chase that uniqueness, amplify that uniqueness, that's really the thing that's going to allow you to align with your purpose. And so a lot of times we're in a sameness mindset.
Yes, indeed.
So think about things like, if you're in the supermarket, for example, you know, and there's still some magazines in there, and you can look at what's on the magazine, right? And it's a lot about how you can be the same as somebody else, how you can duplicate a particular aesthetic or a particular something, right? It's about assimilating instead of stepping into your uniqueness, which is really your true power. So we have a culture of how I can be the same as you were in music, right? People come to me presenting music all of the time, and they're like, well, this is my version of so-and-so. This is my version of Megan Thee Stallion. This is my version of SZA. This is my version of Post Malone. And to me, it was always a red flag, because I don't need another version of Post Malone. There's a Post Malone.
Correct.
I want what's the best version of whatever it is that you're bringing me, and let's find the uniqueness in that. And that's where the magic and the cornerstone of the brand needs to be. That's where the power is. But it takes confidence to step into your quirkiness and really own it.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. It's a beautiful thing when you made the equation. Well, my words are just all over the place today.
We got you.
I sure appreciate it. Typically, I'm halfway articulate. But for today, for some reason, my brain.
Well, if you sing, maybe, you know. La la la.
All right, lady. All right. No. The connection between brand and identity.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And like, it's hard, but I can see why the challenge for people to find. Establish their brand, because it's difficult enough for an individual to find their own identity. You know what I mean? As you mentioned, like, people are often trying to fit into a mold. And I've said this multiple times on the platform, like, it is your imperfections that make you unique. You know what I mean? And instead of, you already articulated it very well, but instead of running away from those imperfections, it's important that you embrace them and amplify them, as you already said. And you know, and we getting ahead in the conversation, but especially with the development of AI and all the things that it's going to bring, and it's coming down the pipeline, is going to make the pursuit for perfection even more crazy.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And while everybody is, and this is just a little nugget for everybody that's trying to establish brands during this explosion of AI, it is going to be the imperfection that is going to truly, that's going to truly stand out, that's going to truly matter, that's going to truly be the identifier for being a human being. One of our things we always talk about, or we have for our branding, is our marketing is hashtag stay human. We often use that. And it's really just the idea of people learning and understanding what it means to be a human being. As we get further and further away, like, you will never be perfect. You will never be without flaw. And even if you can, accomplish perfection for a moment, you know what I mean? Like, it won't last. And so it's really, really important that you learn to be comfortable being imperfect.
Yes.
Because that's what it means to be a human being. Whenever you pursue anything other than that, like, that's when, trouble comes. You know,
and forgive me because I can't think of like the perfect example, but I think we can all relate to the comment of, how many mistakes in art have become the happy accident, and something magical was created from a mistake, for example, or an invention that was created because a mistake happened. And so you really, have to allow yourself to be a little bit open and really squash down the desire to compete with what other people think you should be. And that's hard because in our life, starting from when we are children, oftentimes it's somebody telling us what they think we should be. You should be this, you should be that. Words have power. Yeah. And so, there's a conditioning that happens with what you should be, what you should do. And depending on what those words are, you know, it could lead you in the right or the wrong way. How many times do you have a miserable adult who's having a lot of mental health challenges because they went with the conditioning as opposed to that little small tiny voice inside them that says you were meant to do something different? And so that causes a lot of confusion and stress. You know, it's a beautiful thing when you figure out how to identify your special gifts and talents and how to lock into how you can best use them for the purpose of doing good. I'll always say I'm a do-gooder. So for the purpose of maximum impact, right? For the purpose of doing good. It's a beautiful thing when that connects. And it doesn't always connect in childhood. You know, sometimes it connects for someone who's very, you know, grown, who's bumped their heads a lot of times along the way. I mean, we all can hear the stories of the people that didn't find success until much later in life. 62 years old and started this company, or, you know, like, let's say Harrison Ford, right? Who's, you know, Indiana Jones, right? I'm a movie person, but, you know, he didn't, I think he was what, 45 years old before he got his real big breakthrough as an actor. He was a carpenter, you know, and so he's out here building stuff for people, but there was that still small voice on the inside that said he was meant to do something different. And when he locked and loaded on that, and then there you go, you know, he was able to, you know, I guess, you know, achieve his purpose.
Yeah. We actually interviewed an artist a while back, Artisma. And I remember him, shout out Artisma.
My man.
He's very talented young man. And I remember in our conversation, one of the things that we asked him was like, you know, how do you cope with the competition? Like, how do you deal with seeing all these people who are talented and then you've got your own stuff? Like, how do you deal with that? And I remember one of the things that we talked about was also like just recognizing that you are your own person, and his art is not like any other art. Yeah, he can use tools like AI to help him. Yeah, okay, he sees other artists who are, you know, millions of followers, whatever, but he's his own person. And remembering that, connecting with that's all that matters, because it's going to help you connect with your art even further and make it so much more valuable than anything else.
You know, if we really want to bring the internet back into the convo, you know, there's a buzzword called engagement, right?
Yeah.
And so you could have a gazillion followers, but what's your engagement looking like?
Yeah.
What engagement really speaks to is relationship. What is your ability to move the crowd? You know, how many people are commenting? Are you know, I do think the internet, you know, we hate you, internet, but, you know, the things about the internet that are valuable are some of the tools where it can allow you to build some connection with people. But that's the whole other thing about building a brand, is that you have to also set aside the time to physically do that. So for example, you know, I have some free game. I still do free game to this day. And so, you know, my free game, you jumped in the DM, you know, and sent me a song and asked for some feedback. And so, you know, for me, it was, well, if I'm trying to build connection with people that are following what I have to say, which I'm grateful for, you know, it's valuable for me to take a few minutes, listen to the song, offer you some feedback, even if it's nothing more than recognizing the fact and acknowledging, hey, I appreciate you sending me the track. Thank you for sharing that with me. You know, at least it says, hey, man, I see you. I see you're here in my community. And you feel recognized and you're like, wow, actually responded.
Yeah.
And so, you know, you have to, when you're building a brand, you have to also set aside time to understand that you need to build a community, because without the community, you could be a brand all day, but if you're trying to do something larger, you know, then you're going to need to have your community along for the ride.
I love it. We're going to move forward in the conversation. Perfect segue. I want to ask a question. What is it, or name one or a few things that professionals do that is actually difficult that they make look easy?
Well, the first thing I would say is there's an expression that I use called you never see the moon, howl back at the dog. You know, I have a dog, shout out to DJ, but you know, so if the dog howls at the moon, you don't see the moon howl back. So the professional has to be the moon. You know, and it's hard to do that. When somebody's trying to tear apart your dream, like shred it, you know, and saying hateful and hurtful things and being overly critical, because it's a brave thing to do to go down the path, but it doesn't mean that you don't question yourself. It doesn't mean that you don't have doubt. So what the professionals do is they don't respond. They don't howl back. So that's one thing. The other thing is that they have a strong commitment to consistency. Because here's the thing, a consistent fool can actually beat somebody who has all the talent in the world, who has no consistency.
Yeah.
Because you have to show up for yourself every day. So what the pros do is show up for themselves every day, regardless to how hard it is. And they are consistently committed to building their brand. And so I say that's a real pro. It's you got to show up.
Yeah.
So I think that's really important. The other thing I would say is this: sometimes people think you've arrived and you know it all. And that's one of the biggest misnomers. And the real pros, the greats, even the most successful. I mean, you could take the billionaires of the world. You could take Warren Buffett, who still reads books and is still, trying to educate himself. And there's a long list of people just the same. What are you learning? What are you learning that can make you better at what you do? Because the minute you think that you've figured it all out is when, to me, that's the beginning of the unraveling. Because there's always something new, a new elevation, a new something, a new tweak to learn. I consider myself really good at what I do. I really do. I believe in that. I have that confidence. But even with that, I also recognize that, but I could be a little better at this, or this is an area that I don't know. I'm taking an online class about building an online, email database. I feel that that's going to be valuable for the Renegades, Rebels, and Rogues brand, is to find a specific way to build a community, and I think email could be that. And so making the commitment to do that and say, Terri doesn't know everything, so let me figure out what else I do know. And then I think, too, the real pros, they have people in their circle that are their circle. So there's a great book, Think and Grow Rich. And the premise of the book, what was it? Rockefellers. It was one of the famous, American families back in the Gap, the rich ones, right? Yeah. And so the guy that wrote the book, Napoleon Hill, he comes across, I want to say, was it Rockefeller? Don't forgive me. It might have been Rockefeller. But anyway, he comes across a super rich. This is way, way, way back. And he just got out of school, journalism degree. And so the guy gives him a mission. He said, here's what I think you should do. I think you should go around and interview all the uber successful people of the day. So, it's like all the successful millionaires and all of these different industries, and even people like Einstein, people of the day that were considered to be the best in their field. And he said, and find the commonalities. And then that's how Think and Grow Rich came to be a book, because he did just that. So talk about somebody really locking in to your purpose really early on. What an amazing gift that was. Yeah. And so one of the things, or one of the takeaways, is also you got to have your personal board of directors, if you will. Your personal mastermind group of people that see what you're trying to do, that value what you're trying to do, but that you're able to get some really honest feedback from, so that you can sort of make sure you regulate your compass as you go along your journey. And, those people may be for a season, they may be for a lifetime, maybe just for a moment, but also, have the ability to understand that you could benefit, from the right people that really have a heart to help you, So I think those are some important things for a pro.
Definitely.
I'm just, as you talk, I love listening to you talk.
Oh,
I really do. And I mean, I see everything that you're saying, and I feel like I'm just thinking of the ways that I can apply it to my life too, because I'm a kind of person where I've told this to Hamilton before. I've always been afraid to be like perceived on the internet, or even kind of like build who I am on there. In real life, I don't mind talking to people. I don't mind going for things. I pretty much a busybody, but sometimes I think it's really easy to get lost in those things. Yeah. And not focus in. And when you put it the way that you do, I'm like, oh my God, it makes so much sense.
Well, see, what I find in your story is the beauty in the fact that it's not a comfortable space for you, and there's an honesty with that. So to say, to share that that's a struggle for you is really, endearing to me, because one, I can see is completely honest, and so I'm immediately wanting to lean into you, because there's that championing the underdog, or saying, you know what? There's something in you that reminds me of me, and if you can do it, I can do it. Yeah. So you were brave enough to put yourself out there, and I'm going to cheer you on, because maybe you being successful will be the trigger that will help me take my step. And so in that way, that's how people could potentially be drawn in. Yeah. For you, and this is probably a off podcast convo, is like, well, who are you? What do you do? And why do you do it? So what do you want your brand to be? And then you flesh that out from there. Yeah. But, taking the steps, I was terrified. So truth moment. I was in radio. Radio is this. You don't see Terri. Yeah. I didn't get into radio to be on TV, right? Yeah. I didn't get into radio to do video. You can come to hair up in a bun, no makeup on, wearing sweats and do your job. So, the business changed. And so when it came to me doing video, oh my, I knew I needed to jump in the space. I was terrified. Literally terrified. I'm sitting on my back porch and I'm trying to do free game, and I just like, oh man, I look terrible. Am I sounding okay or whatever? And at some point I found peace in the process.
Yeah.
Peace in the process.
By being consistent.
And being consistent, and then realizing that, it didn't matter because I'm not the makeup gal. So if, I have to go and get some help with that when I need to get the face put on. So, for me, I realized that it was the information that as long as the sound was clear, and the picture was decent, that it was the information that had value. And that's what people were drawn into. It wasn't the aesthetic of how I looked. Now, people may comment and they like my glasses. I mean, those are Terri things, but, it was the information. And so, that's where me becoming more brave came into it, because the people were like, no, we're here for the info. They don't care how you look.
It's powerful. When I was drafting that question about what professionals do, right? I thought about when I was doing music, and when I first started going into the studio, and how cold that space is. You know what I mean? And hearing yourself in your headphones, and it was at that moment, when I started kind of get into it, because I can carry a tune. You know what I mean? But it's different when you're singing out, in real time, in real space, and you're in this quiet, like, dead space. And it was in that point I really realized, like, what it means to be a recording artist. Because you have to be able to go into this space and create something. You know what I mean? If you, and you forget all the auto-tune and all the, plugins and all the things that the engineer is doing, if you can't go and deliver the performance, he has nothing to work with, or she has nothing to work with, however you want to put it. And so it's one of those. That's what it kind of thought when I thought about that, because it's like people on the outside looking in look at a Beyonce, or look at a Tim Robbins, or look at anybody that's successful, and they make it look so easy what they're doing. But the reality is that they've honed that skill.
There's such a great point there.
Come on now.
So this is a video that I saw on the internet. There's a rock band called Disturbed, right? So it's a rock band. So there was this little clip floating around. And I don't know how it got mentioned on stage. Somehow Taylor Swift's name came up, right? And we all understand she's, really buzzing right now. Won't over-explain that. We all get it. And this guy who is a rock guy, I mean, Taylor Swift is not his music of choice, but he shut the crowd down. And he said, let me say something to you. He said, you may not like Taylor Swift's music. I'm not necessarily a pop guy, but I'm not going to stand here and let you boo her, because what Taylor Swift is doing is getting up on stage every night, the utmost professional, putting on a 3-hour show, but she's getting out there with a guitar, playing a guitar and singing her song. She's getting out there sitting at a piano, playing the piano, singing her song. In an age where a lot of music is computer generated, here's an artist who is committed to the art and is showcasing the skills required to be the artist that she has become. And so his point was, she is exposing millions of little girls and little boys that might be into the music about how cool it might be to play a real instrument. And so, that's the other thing too, is like, you look at the result, like Usher, the Super Bowl show, on skates, the whole thing, like he just didn't fall into some skates and make it look amazing. The effort that it takes to do that, the effort that it took to pull together the performance, or Alicia Keys and, the big billowy, dress in the background, and she's with the piano, and I know people were like tapped in, like, was the first note, pristine or not? I was like, forget the first note. The lady's out there. She's playing this amazing red piano, and, and at the Super Bowl. And so the pros make the skills look easy, but there's literally thousands of hours of repetitive practice going in to improve those skills so that you could be a professional at those things. And that's what looks easy, but is not. And it's the commitment to the consistency to get in there and to be better and to show up for yourself every day and practice that skill and do it over and over and over, and to work through your imperfection to be able to be good at it.
See? And that's what I'm talking about, because when you talk about building a brand and creating this identity, that is a process.
Yes.
Process takes time.
Yes, it does.
And in a world where people are increasingly impatient and want instant gratification, that's what's going to hold 90% of people back from being able to accomplish what it is that they desire to accomplish, because you don't understand, nor will you accept that this is a difficult process. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of reps to get so good that it looks effortless.
I just did some free game on this, and I think how I put it was, stop quitting on your concept before your audience even has a chance to connect to it. Yeah, to catch on. I think it was catch on. Thank you.
I watched it.
See, thank you. Hearts for you. Hearts for you. You're still there with me. I appreciate it. But because, all right, let's dial it back. The internet
I loved it too. Very
opens
powerful
up
point.
distraction. And so, let's take the music business, for example. So if you wanted to hear a new record, you go to radio. Radio would be the source for the new music. Oh, I heard on the radio, wow, new record. All right, so then here comes like MTV, BET, right? So not only is it now radio, there's also a visual component and video shows. And so now there's, there's the radio, MTV, BET, video, right? So if you want to find the new music, where are you going? That's where you go. Then go to your record store. And so the internet really grows and pops in. And so you have all of these other avenues. Now for music, you can go to YouTube, you can go to Spotify, Apple Music. There's all the avenues, to be able to find new music. And so what it does is it increases competition for attention. And so because we're living in kind of an ADD society where we sort of bebop around.
Yeah.
We're on this, then we're on this. And I tell my kids that, stop, you're bebopping around, stay focused. We don't have the level of self-discipline and focus. And so it does take longer for things to catch on. And so you may have a great idea, a great concept, a great something with your brand, but you're quit on yourself before you give the audience a chance to catch on. Thank you. And so, all of that effort is wasted. And then you start back from zero and you're trying again, but then you discard it and all that effort is wasted. And so you end up with a lot of frustration because you've tried and in your mind tried and failed. Well, the failure was that you quit on yourself. The failure may not have been the concept. The failure was in the quit. And so you have to be able to stay committed to the process and do the ancillary things again to build community.
See? That's why we brought her on the show. She's giving you the jewels you need.
Thank you.
I mean, of course. You know what I'm saying? So, okay, perfect segue to the next portion of our discussion. You've been in the game for a second and a half.
A second and a half, yes.
So
I'm a prodigy. I literally started at 14, so yes.
Wow.
And so before legal age, she was out there working.
I sure was, honey. My parents didn't have no money. I just need to figure things out. I was like, look, Terry got to need to figure out how to eat in this life.
You gotta eat, baby. Come
if I
on.
wanted these Nikes, which didn't come for a very long time, I've had to figure out how to get the money. And then even with that, I was like, whew. It was hard to earn that money. Do I really want to spend this money on some Nikes? But anyway.
To put the Nikes on, don't even want to walk around inside.
It's like, don't step on my Nikes.
Sleep in there.
It's like, yeah, no doubt. So, but yeah.
So I got me thinking, like 25 years, you're looking at 98, 99? 1998, 99?
When I was in high school?
No, you're talking about in Radio 1.
Oh, when I joined Radio 1, in 99.
That's what I figured.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about what was going on at the time. So Destiny's Child starting to kind of kick.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Was so
I
fun.
know Swisher House is for the locals.
Love it.
That was a thing. You know what I mean?
Houston was well. When I came to Houston, it
feel
was
like so many
2005.
artists. Yeah.
2000. Well, before that, I was with Radio 1, but I was in Ohio. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so they bought the company that I was working for there.
Got
So
it.
that's how I got absorbed into Radio 1. And so the opportunity came for me to go to Houston. And when I came, it was 2005.
Okay, they were
and so
already-
it was right after the Justin Timberlake Super Bowl. Right after that, right? But before that big All-Star. So that came the next year. So it was beautiful story. So I was in Cincinnati at WIZF, and this when Mike Jones' song was, he was working his song and he was traveling all over the country. So my first music artist that I met from Houston was Mike Jones. And it was so wonderful because, he had such a dynamic personality, and song was super catchy and all the things. And for whatever the reason, in Ohio, they had an affection for artists from Texas because in the underground, Lil Flip was a big artist, at that particular time in Ohio. And so Mike was working his record, and I remember coming up with this crazy promotion. Crazy, not crazy, but I said, look, we're going to put you in an ice cream truck. We're going to ride to the park, and we're going to give out ice cream and play your song. And that's what we did. And so I was able to become acquainted with Mike Jones as my first artist, and I didn't live here yet. And then a few months later, I was on my way to Houston, and then became, really enveloped into the Houston music scene, which was really, really starting to pop. It was on the up. So it was really cool. It was on the up again, I would say, because I do want to recognize what came before the movement of that era, with the Ghetto Boys and Scarface and all the Rap-A-Lot stuff. So,
Indeed. But it just got me thinking, like, how much music that you have seen come through the door, and you've been a bit of a gatekeeper. Yeah, indeed. For a lot of music and a lot of movements that's been going on in Houston. And so I was thinking to myself, okay, I wonder what would be one of your favorite success stories. You've seen a lot of artists that have, that have tried to make their ranks come through the ranks in Houston.
One, there's so many, I think.
Or a story that just inspired you, that you saw, like, man, I'm
I'm
really
going to
inspired
tell you about something that inspires me. So, Slim Thug inspires me.
I thought that's a good one.
Okay.
I want to talk about that a little bit myself.
So here, Slim Thug, I would tell you about Slim. So, Slim, big boss of the North, Slim doing his thing. So,
him and Mattress Mac got that. It's about brand. Here's what I love about Slim. Slim was independent and, scrapping it out the good old-fashioned way. And then he got the opportunity to sign to a major, which, there's a lot of times that's the aspiration for an artist, is they want to get signed to a major record label to have that national distribution. And so he did. He made a really good album. Pharrell worked on the album, a success. And Slim was getting a lot of good looks. His music was doing well. He was on a Beyonce remix. He had the album, with Pharrell being involved and all the things. But sometimes when you make the foray into the major label game and you've really rooted yourself in the independent game, sometimes the dollars don't make sense. And there's a lot of things that can be beyond your control when you're signing half your life away to a major record label. And so, Slim ended up over time taking himself back fully independent. And I just really admire that. And with Slim, he loves music, and music is a constant passion for him. But the way that he's taking the money that he's invested it and literally buy back the block, So Boss Life Construction, out here and taking homes and rehabbing homes and improving neighborhoods and, all the things that he's involved with. Like, Slim is a larger than life personality. I mean, he's, 6 foot something or other and very impressive. But, I really admire the fact that he, did the dance, tried that out, and then said, you know what, that's really not for me. So I'm going to go back independent and stay committed to that route, no matter how many times somebody else may have wanted to run at him to give the national record label a chance. And Slim is nationally known. It's not like he's just not a Houston guy. Yeah. I mean, this guy's a national and international star. But, to really take back ownership of his brand and stay independent and to be able to tune out the distraction of what the other things might have been, I really admire that. And I admire the way he's poured back into the community. I admire the fact that, he speaks up about finances and, Slim is famously frugal in a lot of ways. And he really spits a lot of game, to kids about money and what that looks like. And I love when he gets on his Instagram and he's like, this shirt was $5, because Slim Thug is wearing it and you think it's a $500 shirt, but he's like, nah, kid, I'm keeping my money. So, but to me, those are St. George for Walmart, baby.
But that's important because how many kids out here are buying into this faux lifestyle that's being presented in hip hop that think it's, this rock and roll life, right? but it's not real. But Slim is like, you know what, kid? Like, yes, you can earn and have some nice things, but everything, keep everything in perspective. And so, Slim is someone that I admire. I mean, there's so many. I do love Slim. I love Megan Thee Stallion story. So this is a true story. So, this is God rest her soul, but when Megan's mom was alive. And so, Megan's mom really believed in Megan and thought that she really had something special. I think we've all can agree that she does. And so it was a concerted effort with Megan and her mom really out here in these streets, doing what I like to call hand-to-hand combat, meeting every person where they were, just trying to expose the music and the story. And so the DJ community here in Houston. Now, DJ communities can have fraternities and sororities, if you will. It's like cliques that they're a part of. It's a good thing. But in this particular case, it wasn't about their particular DJ affiliation. It was about them being DJs from Houston and believing in the talent of Megan and believing in Megan and, with her mom's leadership and guidance. And so there was a concerted effort by the DJs to stand and get behind Megan. And because all the best DJs worked at the radio station, they were on my team, I was very privy to that conversation. I was very privy to the movement. And I was watching it because my desire is always like, I want to be able to put out there what could be the next thing, right? So always looking for that. And how cool it would be to have a woman, like Beyonce, Destiny's Child, loved that. But how about a woman on the rap space to really break out and be an international superstar? And so I was locked and loaded, and when the moment was right, I was ready to roll. And so it was a concerted effort by the community, the music community in Houston. She has the talent, but we're going to work together to make sure that we're all working together on behalf of her. And so the Box was the first radio station to get behind Megan, and gratefully the Box has a reputation of when you make it to the Box, that's the ultimate amplifier, and the rest of the business takes notice. And so the music was good. It was, it was really the thing to set her up for success. And, it all worked in lockstep. So I would say I'm proud of that because I'm proud of the way the DJs got together as a unit, because that takes a lot. DJing can be very competitive, but they got together and made a decision. I'm grateful that my team allowed me to be a part of the next level of that. And then when we push play, we just locked and loaded for her, and she's become, the international superstar that she is.